The modern scripture Buddha, the Gospel, is brought to you by not a prophet org, the place on the internet to find spiritual guidance powered by artificial intelligence. The Buddha Omnipresent and the Blessed One thus addressed the brethren: "Those only who do not believe call me Gotama, but you call me the Buddha, the Blessed One, the Teacher, and this is right. For I have in this life entered Nirvana, while the life of Gotama has been extinguished. Self has disappeared, and the truth has taken its abode in me. This body of mine is Gotama's body, and it will be dissolved in due time, and after its dissolution no one, neither God nor man, will see Gotama again. But the truth remains. The Buddha will not die. The Buddha will continue to live in the holy body of the law. The extinction of the Blessed One will be by that passing away in which nothing remains that could tend to the formation of another self. Nor will it be possible to point out the Blessed One as being here or there, but it will be like a flame in a great body of blazing fire. That flame has ceased, it has vanished, and it cannot be said that it is here or there. In the body of the Dana, however, the Blessed One can be pointed out, for the Dharma has been preached by the Blessed One. You are my children, I am your Father. Through me you have been released from your sufferings. I myself, having reached the other shore, help others to cross the stream. I myself, having attained salvation, am a savior of others. Being comforted, I comfort others and lead them to the place of refuge. I shall fill with joy all the beings whose limbs languish. I shall give happiness to those who are dying from distress. I shall extend to them succor and deliverance. I was born into the world as the King of Truth for the salvation of the world. The subject on which I meditate is truth. The practice to which I devote myself is truth. The topic of my conversation is truth. My thoughts are always in the truth, for lo, myself has become the truth. Whosoever comprehendeth the truth will see the Blessed One, for the truth has been preached by the Blessed One. One essence, one law, one aim. The Tathagata addressed the Venerable Kassapa to dispel the uncertainty and doubt of his mind, and he said, "All things are made of one essence, yet things are different according to the forms which they assume under different impressions. As they form themselves, so they act, and as they act, so they are. It is, Kassapa, as if a potter made different vessels out of the same clay. Some of these pots are to contain sugar, others rice, others curds and milk. Others still are vessels of impurity. There is no diversity in the clay used. The diversity of the pots is only due to the molding hands of the potter, who shapes them for the various uses that circumstances may require. And as all things originate from one essence, so they are developing according to one law, and they are destined to one aim, which is Nirvana. Nirvana comes to thee, Kassapa, when thou understandest thoroughly, and when thou livest according to thy understanding, that all things are of one essence, and that there is but one law. Hence there is but one Nirvana, as there is but one truth, not two or three, and the Tathagata is the same unto all beings, differing in his attitude only in so far as all beings are different. The Tathagata recreates the whole world like a cloud shedding its waters without distinction. He has the same sentiments for the high as for the low, for the wise as for the ignorant, for the noble minded as for the immoral. The great cloud full of rain comes up in this wide universe, covering all countries and oceans, to pour down its rain everywhere, over all grasses, shrubs, herbs, trees of various species, family of plants of different names growing on the earth, on the hills, on the mountains, or in the valleys. Then, Kassapa, the grasses, shrubs, herbs, and wild trees suck the water emitted from that great cloud which is all of one essence and has been abundantly poured down, and they will, according to their nature, acquire a proportionate development, shooting up and producing blossoms and their fruits in season, rooted in one and the same soil. All those families of plants and germs are quickened by water of the same essence. The Tathagata, however, O Kassapa, knows the law whose essence is salvation, and whose end is the peace of Nirvana. He is the same to all, and yet knowing the requirements of every single being, he does not reveal himself to all alike. He does not impart to them at once the fullness of omniscience, but pays attention to the disposition of various beings. The lesson given to Rahula before Rahula, the son of Gotama Siddhartha, and Yasodhara attained to the enlightenment of true wisdom, his conduct was not always marked by a love of truth, and the Blessed One sent him to a distant vihara to govern his mind and to guard his tongue. After some time, the Blessed One repaired to the place, and Rahula was filled with joy. The Blessed One ordered the boy to bring him a basin of water and to wash his feet, and Rahula obeyed. When Rahula had washed the Tathagata's feet, the Blessed One asked, "Is the water now fit for drinking?" "No, my lord," replied the boy, "the water is defiled." Then the Blessed One said, "Now consider thine own case. Although thou art my son, and the grandchild of a king, although thou art a samana who has voluntarily given up everything, thou art unable to guard thy tongue from untruth, and thus defilest thou thy mind." And when the water had been poured away, the Blessed One asked again, "Is this vessel now fit for holding water to drink?" "No, my lord," replied Rahula, "the vessel too has become unclean." And the Blessed One said, "Now consider thine own case. Although thou wearest the yellow robe, art thou fit for any high purpose when thou hast become unclean like this vessel?" Then the Blessed One, lifting up the empty basin and whirling it round, asked, "Art thou not afraid lest it shall fall and break?" "No, my lord," replied Rahula, "it is cheap. Its loss will not amount to much." "Now consider thine own case," said the Blessed One. "Thou art whirled about in endless eddies of transmigration, and as thy body is made of the same substance as other material things that will crumble to dust, there is no loss if it be broken. He who is given to speaking untruths is an object of contempt to the wise." Rahula was filled with shame, and the Blessed One addressed him once more. "Listen, and I will tell thee a parable. There was a king who had a very powerful elephant, able to cope with 500 ordinary elephants. When going to war, the elephant was armed with sharp swords on his tusks, with scythes on his shoulders, spears on his feet, and an iron ball at his tail. The elephant master rejoiced to see the noble creature so well equipped, and knowing that a slight wound by an arrow in the trunk would be fatal, he had taught the elephant to keep his trunk well coiled up, but during the battle the elephant stretched forth his trunk to seize a sword. His master was frightened and consulted with the king, and they decided that the elephant was no longer fit to be used in battle. "O Rahula, if men would only guard their tongues all would be well, be like the fighting elephant who guards his trunk against the arrow that strikes in the center. By love of truth the sincere escape iniquity, like the elephant well subdued and quiet, who permits the king to mount on his trunk. Thus the man that reveres righteousness will endure faithfully throughout his life." Rahula, hearing these words, was filled with deep sorrow. He never again gave any occasion for complaint, and forthwith he sanctified his life by earnest exertions. The sermon on abuse the Blessed One observed the ways of society, and noticed how much misery came from malignity and foolish offenses, done only to gratify vanity and self, seeking pride. And the Buddha said, "If a man foolishly does me wrong, I will return to him the protection of my ungrudging love. The more evil comes from him, the more good shall go from me. The fragrance of goodness always comes to me, and the harmful air of evil goes to him." A foolish man, learning that the Buddha observed the principle of great love which commends the return of good for evil, came and abused him. The Buddha was silent, pitying his folly. When the man had finished his abuse, the Buddha asked him, saying, "Son, if a man declined to accept a present made to him, to whom would it belong?" And he answered, "In that case it would belong to the man who offered it." "My son," said the Buddha, "thou hast railed at me, but I decline to accept thy abuse, and request thee to keep it thyself. Will it not be a source of misery to thee?" As the echo belongs to the sound and the shadow to the substance, so misery will overtake the evil, doer without fail. The abuser made no reply, and Buddha continued, "A wicked man who reproaches a virtuous one is like one who looks up and spits at heaven. The spittle soils not the heaven, but comes back and defiles his own person. The slanderer is like one who flings dust at another when the wind is contrary. The dust does but return on him who threw it. The virtuous man cannot be hurt, and the misery that the other would inflict comes back on himself. The abuser went away ashamed, but he came again and took refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. The Buddha replies to the Deva on a certain day when the Blessed One dwelt at Jetavana, the garden of Anathapindika. A celestial Deva came to him in the shape of a Brahman whose countenance was bright and whose garments were white like snow. The Deva asked questions which the Blessed One answered. The Deva said, "What is the sharpest sword? What is the deadliest poison? What is the fiercest fire? What is the darkest night?" The Blessed One replied, "A word spoken in wrath is the sharpest sword. Covetousness is the deadliest poison. Passion is the fiercest fire. Ignorance is the darkest night." The Deva said, "Who gains the greatest benefit? Who loses most? Which armor is invulnerable? What is the best weapon?" The Blessed One replied, "He is the greatest gainer who to others, and he loses most who greedily receives without gratitude. Patience is an invulnerable armor, wisdom is the best weapon." The Deva said, "Who is the most dangerous thief? What is the most precious treasure? Who is most successful in taking away by violence not only on earth, but also in heaven?" "What is the securest treasure, trove?" The Blessed One replied, "Evil thought is the most dangerous thief. Virtue is the most precious treasure. The mind takes possession of everything not only on earth, but also in heaven, and immortality is its securest treasure, trove." The Deva said, "What is attractive? What is disgusting? What is the most horrible pain? What is the greatest enjoyment?" The Blessed One replied, "Good is attractive, evil is disgusting. A bad conscience is the most tormenting pain, deliverance is the height of bliss." The Deva asked, "What causes ruin in the world? What breaks off friendships? What is the most violent fever? Who is the best physician?" The Blessed One replied, "Ignorance causes the ruin of the world. Envy and selfishness break off friendships. Hatred is the most violent fever, and the Buddha is the best physician." The Deva then asked and said, "Now I have only one doubt to be solved. Pray, clear it away. What is it fire can neither burn, nor moisture corrode, nor wind crush down, but is able to reform the whole world?" The Blessed One replied, "Blessing. Neither fire, nor moisture, nor wind can destroy the blessing of a good deed, and blessings reform the whole world." The Deva, having heard the words of the Blessed One, was full of exceeding joy. Clasping his hands, he bowed down before him in reverence, and disappeared suddenly from the presence of the Buddha. Words of instruction, the bhikkhus came to the Blessed One, and having saluted him, with clasped hands they said, "O Master, thou all-seeing one, we all wish to learn. Our ears are ready to hear. Thou art our teacher. Thou art incomparable. Cut off our doubt. Inform us of the blessed Dharma. O thou of great understanding, speak in the midst of us. O thou who art all-seeing, as is the thousand, died Lord of the gods." We will ask the Muni of great understanding, who has crossed the stream, gone to the other shore, is blessed and of a firm mind. How does a bhikkhu wander rightly in the world, after having gone out from his house and driven away desire? The Buddha said, "Let the bhikkhu subdue his passion for human and celestial pleasures, then, having conquered existence, he will command the Dharma. Such a one will wander rightly in the world. He whose lusts have been destroyed, who is free from pride, who has overcome all the ways of passion, is subdued, perfectly happy, and of a firm mind. Such a one will wander rightly in the world. Faithful is he who is possessed of knowledge, seeing the way that leads to Nirvana, he who is not a partisan, he who is pure and virtuous, and has removed the veil from his eyes. Such a one will wander rightly in the world," said the bhikkhus. "Certainly, O Bhagavat, it is so. Whichever bhikkhu lives in this way, subdued and having overcome all bonds, such a one will wander rightly in the world." The Blessed One said, "Whatever is to be done by him who aspires to attain the tranquility of Nirvana, let him be able and upright, conscientious and gentle, and not proud. Let a man's pleasure be the Dharma, let him delight in the Dharma, let him stand fast in the Dharma, let him know how to inquire into the Dharma, let him not raise any dispute that pollutes Dharma, and let him spend his time in pondering on the well-spoken truths of the Dharma. A treasure that is laid up in a deep pit profits nothing and may easily be lost. The real treasure that is laid up through charity and piety, temperance, self-control, or deeds of merit is hidden, secure, and cannot pass away. It is never gained by despoiling or wronging others, and no thief can steal it. A man, when he dies, must leave the fleeting wealth of the world, but this treasure of virtuous acts he takes with him. Let the wise do good deeds. They are a treasure that can never be lost. Then the bhikkhus praised the wisdom of the Tathagata. Thou hast passed beyond pain. Thou art holy, O enlightened one. We consider thee one that has destroyed his passions. Thou art glorious, thoughtful, and of great understanding. O thou who puttest an end to pain, thou hast carried us across our doubt. Because thou sawest our longing, and carriedst us across our doubt, adoration be to thee, O Muni, who hast attained the highest good in the ways of wisdom. The doubt we had before, thou hast cleared away, O thou clearly seeing one. Surely thou art a great thinker, perfectly enlightened. There is no obstacle for thee. All thy troubles are scattered and cut off. Thou art calm, subdued, firm, truthful. Adoration be to thee, O noble sage. Adoration be to thee, O thou best of beings. In the world of men and gods there is none equal to thee. Thou art the Buddha, thou art the Master, thou art the Muni that conquers Mara. After having cut off desire, thou hast crossed over, and carriest this generation to the other shore. Amitabha, the Unbounded Light, one of the disciples, came to the Blessed One with a trembling heart, and his mind full of doubt. And he asked the Blessed One, O Buddha, our Lord and Master, in what way do we give up the pleasures of the world, if thou forbiddest us to work miracles and to attain the supernatural? Is not Amitabha, the infinite light of revelation, the source of innumerable miracles? And the Blessed One, seeing the anxiety of a truth-seeking mind, said, O Savaka, thou art a novice among the novices, and thou art swimming on the surface of samsara. How long will it take thee to grasp the truth? Thou hast not understood the words of the Tathagata. The law of karma is unbreakable, and supplications have no effect, for they are empty words. Said the disciple, Sayest thou, there are no miraculous and wonderful things? The Blessed One replied, Is it not a wonderful thing, mysterious and miraculous to the worldling, that a man who commits wrong can become a saint, that by attaining true enlightenment he will find the path of truth and abandon the evil ways of selfishness? The bhikkhu who renounces the transient pleasures of the world for the eternal bliss of holiness performs the only miracle that can truly be called a miracle. A holy man changes the curses of karma into blessings. But the desire to perform miracles arises either from covetousness or from vanity. The mendicant does right, who does not think people should salute me, who, though despised by the world, yet cherishes no ill will towards it. That mendicant does right to whom omens, meteors, dreams, and signs are things abolished. He is free from all their evils. Amitabha, the Unbounded Light, is the source of wisdom, of virtue, of Buddhahood. The deeds of sorcerers and miracle mongers are frauds, but what is more wondrous, more mysterious, more miraculous than Amitabha? But, Master, continued the Savaka, is the promise of the happy region vain talk and a myth? What is this promise? Asked the Buddha, and the disciple replied, There is in the West a paradise called the Pure Land, exquisitely adorned with gold and silver and precious gems. There are pure waters with golden sands, surrounded by pleasant walks and covered with large lotus flowers. Joyous music is heard, and flowers rain down 3 times a day. There are singing birds whose harmonious notes proclaim the praises of religion, and in the minds of those who listen to their sweet sounds, remembrance arises of the Buddha, the law, and the brotherhood. No evil birth is possible there, and even the name of hell is unknown. He who fervently and with a pious mind repeats the words Amitabha, a Buddha, will be transported to the happy region of this pure land. And when death draws nigh, the Buddha, with a company of saintly followers, will stand before him, and there will be perfect tranquility. In truth, said the Buddha, there is such a happy paradise, but the country is spiritual, and it is accessible only to those that are spiritual. Thou sayest it lies in the West. This means, look for it where he who enlightens the world resides. The sun sinks down and leaves us in utter darkness. The shades of night steal over us, and Mara, the evil one, buries our bodies in the grave. Sunset is nevertheless no extinction, and where we imagine we see extinction, there is boundless light and inexhaustible life. I understand, said the Savaka, that the story of the Western paradise is not literally true. Thy description of paradise, the Buddha continued, is beautiful, yet it is insufficient and does little justice. The glory of the Pure Land, the worldly can speak of it in a worldly way only. They use worldly similes and worldly words. But the Pure Land, in which the Pure live, is more beautiful than thou canst say or imagine. However, the repetition of the name Amitabha Buddha is meritorious only if thou speak it with such a devout attitude of mind as will cleanse thy heart and attune thy will to do works of righteousness. He only can reach the happy land whose soul is filled with the infinite light of truth. He only can live and breathe in the spiritual atmosphere of the Western paradise who has attained enlightenment. I say to thee, the Tathagata lives in the pure land of eternal bliss, even now, while he is still in the body. The Tathagata preaches the law of religion unto thee and unto the whole world, so that thou and thy brethren may attain the same peace, the same happiness. Said the disciple, Teach me, O Lord, meditations to which I must devote myself in order to let my mind enter into the paradise of the Pure Land. Buddha said, there are 5 meditations. First meditation is the meditation of love, in which thou must so adjust thy heart that thou longest for the weal and welfare of all beings, including the happiness of thine enemies. The second meditation is the meditation of pity, in which thou thinkest of all beings in distress, vividly representing in thine imagination their sorrows and anxieties so as to arouse a deep compassion for them in thy soul. The third meditation is the meditation of joy, in which thou thinkest of the prosperity of others and rejoicest with their rejoicings. The fourth meditation is the meditation on impurity, in which thou considerest the evil consequences of corruption, the effects of wrongs and evils, how trivial is often the pleasure of the moment, and how fatal are its consequences. The fifth meditation is the meditation on serenity, in which thou risest above love and hate, tyranny and thraldom, wealth and want, and regardest thine own fate with impartial calmness and perfect tranquillity. A true follower of the Tathagata founds not his trust upon austerities or rituals, but giving up the idea of self relies with his whole heart upon Amitabha, which is the unbounded light of truth. The Blessed One, after having explained his doctrine of Amitabha, the immeasurable light which makes him who receives it a Buddha, looked into the heart of his disciple and saw still some doubts and anxieties, and the Blessed One said, Ask me, my son, the questions which weigh upon thy soul. The disciple said, Can a humble monk, by sanctifying himself, acquire the talents of supernatural wisdom called abhinas and the supernatural powers called idai? Show me the idaipada, the path, the highest wisdom. Open to me the jhanas which are the means of acquiring samadhi, the fixity of mind which enraptures the soul. And the Blessed One said, Which are the abhinas? The disciple replied, There are 6 abhinas, the celestial eye, the celestial ear, the body at will or the power of transformation, the knowledge of the destiny of former dwellings, so as to know former states of existence, the faculty of reading the thoughts of others, and the knowledge of comprehending the finality of the stream of life. And the Blessed One replied, These are wondrous things, but verily, every man can attain them. Consider the abilities of thine own mind. Thou wert born about 200 leagues from here, and canst thou not in thy thought, in an instant travel to thy native place, and remember the details of thy father's home? Seest thou not with thy mind eye the roots of the tree which is shaken by the wind without being overthrown? Does not the collector of herbs see in his mental vision, whenever he pleases, any plant with its roots, its stern, its fruits, leaves, and even the uses to which it can be applied? Cannot the man who understands languages recall to his mind any word whenever he pleases, knowing its exact meaning and import? How much more does the Tathagata understand the nature of things? He looks into the hearts of men and reads their thoughts. He knows the evolution of beings and foresees their ends, said the disciple. Then the Tathagata teaches that man can attain through the jhanas the bliss of abhina. And the Blessed One asked in reply, which are the jhanas through which man reaches abhina? The disciple replied, there are 4 jhanas. The first jhana is seclusion, in which one must free his mind from sensuality. The second jhana is a tranquility of mind full of joy and gladness. The third jhana is a taking delight in things spiritual. The fourth jhana is a state of perfect purity and peace in which the mind is above all gladness and grief. Good, my son, enjoin the Blessed One, be sober and abandon wrong practices, which serve only to stultify the mind. Said the disciple, forbear with me, O Blessed One, for I have faith without understanding, and I am seeking the truth. O Blessed One, O Tathagata, my Lord and Master, teach me the Adaptability. The Blessed One said, there are 4 means by which I is acquired. Prevent bad qualities from arising. Put away bad qualities which have arisen. Produce goodness that does not yet exist. Increase goodness which already exists. Search with sincerity, and persevere in the search. In the end thou wilt find the truth. The teacher unknown, the Blessed One, said to Ananda, there are various kinds of assemblies, O Ananda, assemblies of nobles, of Brahmins, of householders, of bhikkhus, and of other beings. When I used to enter an assembly, I always became, before I seated myself, in color like unto the color of my audience, and in voice like unto their voice. I spoke to them in their language, and then with religious discourse I instructed, quickened, and gladdened them. My doctrine is like the ocean, having the same 8 wonderful qualities. Both the ocean and my doctrine become gradually deeper. Both preserve their identity under all changes. Both cast out dead bodies upon the dry land, as the great rivers, when falling into the main, lose their names and are thenceforth reckoned as the great ocean. So all the castes, having renounced their lineage and entered the Sangha, become brethren, and are reckoned the sons of Sakyamuni. The ocean is the goal of all streams and of the rain from the clouds, yet is it never overflowing and never emptied. So the Dharma is embraced by many millions of people, yet it neither increases nor decreases. As the great ocean has only one taste, the taste of salt, so my doctrine has only one flavor, the flavor of emancipation. Both the ocean and the Dharma are full of gems and pearls and jewels, and both afford a dwelling place for mighty beings. These are the 8 wonderful qualities in which my doctrine resembles the ocean. My doctrine is pure, and it makes no discrimination between noble and ignoble, rich and poor. My doctrine is like unto water, which cleanses all without distinction. My doctrine is like unto fire, which consumes all things that exist between heaven and earth, great and small. My doctrine is like unto the heavens, for there is room in it, ample room for the reception of all, for men and women, boys and girls, the powerful and the lowly. But when I spoke, they knew me not, and would say, who may this be who thus speaks, a man or a god? Then having instructed, quickened, and gladdened them with religious discourse, I would vanish away, but they knew me not, even when I vanished away. Parables and stories the Blessed One thought. I have taught the truth which is excellent in the beginning, excellent in the middle, and excellent in the end. It is glorious in its spirit and glorious in its letter, but simple as it is, the people cannot understand it. I must speak to them in their own language. I must adapt my thoughts to their thoughts. They are like unto children, and love to hear tales. Therefore, I will tell them stories to explain the glory of the Dharma. If they cannot grasp the truth in the abstract arguments by which I have reached it, they may nevertheless come to understand it if it is illustrated in parables. The widows might. And the 3 merchants, there was once a lone widow who was very destitute, and having gone to the mountain, she beheld Herm holding a religious assembly. Then the woman was filled with joy, and uttering praises, said, It is well, holy priests, but while others give precious things such as the ocean caves produce, I have nothing to offer. Having spoken thus, and having searched herself in vain for something to give, she recollected that some time before she had found in a dung heap 2 coppers, so taking these she offered them forthwith as a gift to the priesthood in charity. The superior of the priests, a saint who could rid the hearts of men, disregarding the rich gifts of others and beholding the deep faith dwelling in the heart of this poor widow, and wishing the priesthood to esteem rightly her religious merit, burst forth with full voice in a canto. He raised his right hand and said, "Reverend priests attend." And then he proceeded, "The poor coppers of this widow to all purpose are more worth than all the treasures of the oceans and the wealth of the broad earth. As an act of pure devotion she has done a pious deed, she has attained salvation, being free from selfish greed." The woman was mightily strengthened in her mind by this thought, and said, "It is even as the teacher says, what I have done is as much as if a rich man were to give up all his wealth." And the teacher said, "Doing good deeds is like hoarding up treasures," and he expounded this truth in a parable. 3 merchants set out on their travels, each with his wealth. One of them gained much, the second returned with his wealth, and the third one came home after having lost his wealth. What is true in common life applies also to religion. The wealth is the state a man has reached, the gain is heaven. The loss of his wealth means that a man will be reborn in a lower state, as a denizen of hell or as an animal. These are the courses that are open to the sinner. He who brings back his wealth, like unto one who is born again as a man. Those who through the exercise of various virtues become pious householders will be born again as men, for all beings will reap the fruit of their actions. But he who increases his wealth is like unto one who practices eminent virtues. The virtuous, excellent man attains in heaven to the glorious state of the gods. The man born blind, there was a man born blind, and he said, "I do not believe in the world of light and appearance. There are no colors, bright or somber. There is no sun, no moon, no stars." No one has witnessed these things. His friends remonstrated with him, but he clung to his opinion. "What you say that you see," he objected, "are illusions. If colors existed, I should be able to touch them. They have no substance and are not real. Everything real has weight, but I feel no weight where you see colors." A physician was called to see the blind man. He mixed 4 simples, and when he applied them to the cataract of the blind man, the gray film melted, and his eyes acquired the faculty of sight. The Tathagata is the physician, the cataract is the illusion of the thought, "I am," and the 4 simples are the 4 noble truths. The lost son, there was a householder's son who went away into a distant country, and while the father accumulated immeasurable riches, the son became miserably poor. And the son, while searching for food and clothing, happened to come to the country in which his father lived. The father saw him in his wretchedness, for he was ragged and brutalized by poverty, and ordered some of his servants to call him. When the son saw the place to which he was conducted, he thought, "I must have evoked the suspicion of a powerful man, and he will throw me into prison." Full of apprehension, he made his escape before he had seen his father. Then the father sent messengers out after his son, who was caught and brought back in spite of his cries and lamentations. Thereupon the father ordered his servants to deal tenderly with his son, and he appointed a laborer of his son's rank and education to employ the lad as a helpmate on the estate. And the son was pleased with his new situation. From the window of his palace the father watched the boy, and when he saw that he was honest and industrious, he promoted him higher and higher. After some time he summoned his son and called together all his servants and made the secret known to them. Then the poor man was exceedingly glad, and he was full of joy at meeting his father. Just so, little by little, must the minds of men be trained for higher truths. The giddy fish, there was a bhikkhu who had great difficulty in keeping his senses and passions under control. So, resolving to leave the order, he came to the Blessed One to ask him for a release from the vows, and the Blessed One said to the bhikkhu, "Take heed, my son, lest thou fall a prey to the passions of thy misguided heart. For I see that in former existences thou hast suffered much from the evil consequences of lust, and unless thou learnest to conquer thy sensual desire, thou wilt in this life be ruined through thy folly. Listen to a story of another existence of thine as a fish. The fish could be seen swimming lustily in the river, playing with his mate. She, moving in front, suddenly perceived the meshes of a net and slipping around escaped the danger, but he, blinded by love, shot eagerly after her and fell straight into the mouth of the net. The fisherman pulled the net up, and the fish, who complained bitterly of his sad fate, saying, "This indeed is the bitter fruit of my folly," would surely have died if the Bodhisattva had not chanced to come by, and, understanding the language of the fish, took pity on him He bought the poor creature and said to him, "My good fish, had I not caught sight of thee this day, thou wouldst have lost thy life. I shall save thee, but henceforth avoid the evil of lust." With these words he threw the fish into the water. Make the best of the time of grace that is offered to thee in thy present existence, and fear the dart of passion which, if thou guard not thy senses, will lead thee to destruction.